Good evening, and welcome to tonight's forum brought to you by the Prince George's County Community Development Corporation. Tonight's forum features candidates vying for the Prince George's County State's Attorney, Juanica Fisher, Tara Jackson, and Karen Piper Mitchell. My name is Lawrence Daniels, and I will serve as your moderator this evening. We appreciate each of the candidates for being here for their commitment to public service. Our panelists tonight are Ms. Taylor Fraser McCullum from the No Landover Data Center Movement, Mr. Michael Leventhal from the Broad Creek Conservancy, and Mr. Corey Daniels, a community leader in Fort Washington. Here are the rules of engagement. Each candidate will have 3 minutes to deliver opening statements. Following those introductions, we will move into a moderated discussion. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes to respond to questions posed by our panel. At this time, we will ask the candidates to give a 3-minute opening statement. We'll proceed in alphabetical order, beginning with Ms. Fisher, then Ms. Jackson, and finally, Ms. Mitchell. Ms. Fisher.
Good evening, Prince George's County. My name is Juanica Fisher, the People's Prosecutor, and I'm running to be the next State's Attorney of Prince George's County. I want to thank the Prince George's County Community Development Corporation and PGC-TV tonight for having us in your homes. When I think about what a People's Prosecutor means to me, I think about parents that are concerned about sending their kids to school. I think about seniors that want to feel safe and secure in their homes. I think about young people that need structure and accountability. I think about all of you and all of them, and I will fight for all of you. I've been a prosecutor in this county, protecting victims and holding violent offenders accountable. I've been a defense attorney, protecting people's rights. I was elected to the Maryland House of Delegates, in which I served in the Judiciary Committee, writing criminal laws in our courtrooms every day. And I was elected to the Prince George's County Council, where I chair public safety and oversee all the public safety agencies in this county. We're facing perilous times. We need a new vision, a bold leader. And I'm that leader for you, Prince George's County. I'm excited for this conversation tonight. I'm excited to hear your questions and answer them, and I will earn your vote this evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ms. Jackson.
Good evening, Prince George's. My name is Tara Jackson, and I do want to say thank you to the Community Development Corporation for hosting us here this evening. I am your state's attorney. I was appointed state's attorney back in June of 2025 when there was a vacancy in the office. The law says that when there is a vacancy in the office, then the judges of the circuit court appoint the person to take the seat. I applied to the judges of the circuit court, and I was appointed as interim state's attorney to serve out the remainder of the current term. And of course, I have to run, and I am running to keep the seat as state's attorney. Let me just tell you a little bit about myself. I am Prince Georgian, born in Washington, D.C., but raised in Prince George's most of my life. I went to schools all across the county, to Camp Springs Christian, Riverdale Baptist, as well as Oxon Hill High School. I also have worked most of my professional career in Prince George's County and have been in leadership in this county for the last 15 years. And hopefully we'll get a chance to talk about the leadership roles that I've held over the period of the last 15 years. I would say my most important roles are wife and mother. I'm a wife to Paul Jackson and a mother to Josiah Jackson, who is 12 years old. I'm running because I'm concerned about the health of our county, and I believe that the prosecutor's office is integral to the health of Prince George's County. People are concerned everywhere I go about public safety, and I want to be a part of the solution. I want people to trust the office, to trust the state's attorney's office, to trust the criminal justice system. We're seeing so much across our nation as it relates to the criminal justice system and prosecutors. Prosecutors, frankly, being used in vindictive ways, being used for retribution. And I want the people of Prince George's County to be able to trust their state's attorney's office despite what's happening across our country. Again, I'm Tara Jackson. I am currently your state's attorney, and I'm running to keep the office. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. Ms. Mitchell?
Good evening. I am Karen Piper Mitchell, and again, I would also like to thank the Prince George's County Community Development Corporation for this evening, and thank you all for tuning in. Back in 1999, I began my career as a prosecutor, and for more than 26 years, I have been dedicated to serving the community and helping with public safety. I am from Prince George's County. I'm a native. I have lived in various communities and resided here for over 50 years. I've been a homeowner for over 20. I went to the public school system here and graduated in 1990 as valedictorian from Largo High School. I later went on to Duke University and then Georgetown University Law Center. And after clerking for a year in Prince George's County State's Attorney's Office, I had an opportunity to become a trial attorney in Charles County. And along the way, I found what my passion was, and it was to serve the community in the area of public safety. I have tried just about every kind of case, from theft to murder. But more importantly, I've been instrumental in training and mentoring young prosecutors for over 20 years. And not only do I do that in my own county, but I do that throughout the state as a part of the annual training with the Maryland Attorneys Association, because I understand how critically important public safety is throughout our state. I became the first female deputy state's attorney in 2011, where I also began an administrative role in helping to restructure and reorganize how our office functions so that we could better serve the community and deal with the changes in population growth and technology. And also working with law enforcement in those years to again work with them, not only new recruits and cadets coming out, but as well as seasoned investigators to help improve our cases. Again, always showing my commitment to public safety. But I've served in my community. I've tutored youth for over 20 years, and I used to be a youth football coach. And I understand what's important in the area of criminal law, what's important with respect to public safety. And I'm running to be your state's attorney because I'm committed to making our community safe. Again, I've had family and friends that have resided here, and we too have been victims as family with crime that we face, from being burglarized in our family home when I was younger, to my mother having been a victim of crime, as well as losing 2 cousins to murder. I understand how critically important it is for law enforcement, and critically important that you have leadership and experience at the helm at the state's attorney's office. And I've shown that commitment for over 26 years, and I seek to show that commitment here in Prince George's County as your next state's attorney.
All right. Thank you, candidates. Now let's move into our question from our panelists. Again, I want to remind everyone the candidates will have a 2-minute time limit for their responses. Ms. McCullum, you have the first question tonight. You'll start with Ms. Fisher, then Ms. Jackson, and then Ms. Mitchell will answer your question.
Okay. Thank you. My question tonight is, how many cases have you won, and how has this prepared you for your career? How has this career performance prepared you for this role?
Well, I feel like I've won hundreds of cases. I don't really have a number for you. I've been on both sides in the courtroom. So I've won for my clients as a defense attorney. Too many times I think I've gotten a lot of people out of things, and I've protected their rights. So I've been with clients every single day. I had a case last week in Montgomery County, and my time at the prosecutor's office, I mean, every docket's got so many cases and different trials, so I wouldn't say I have a number for you, but I think I win every day when I protect people. And in my courtroom experience, from my elected experience, it's when you can actually bring justice to someone, whether I was on the prosecutor's side or if I could protect someone's rights as a defense attorney and make sure that everything that was done in the right way, or prove the fact that the prosecutor didn't have enough evidence to convict my client of something. So I think that's important. And for someone like me who's served on both sides of the bench, I really know what prosecutors need, the training that they need to make sure that they can get the convictions that they need. And I know the holes that are going on for the last 8 years that I've been on defense in courtrooms across our county.
Ms. Jackson?
Would you please repeat the second half of the question?
Yes. So, how has your career performance prepared you for this role? Sorry about that.
Oh, I didn't realize your second half. Sorry.
Thank you. So I was a prosecutor. I started in the prosecutor's office that I'm in today. in 1996. And I served in that office for 4 years. I prosecuted everything from assaults to homicides. And then I came back to lead the very office that I'm in today in 2010, I believe it was. And I served for another about 7 years in the same office, but leading the office as an administrator under now Senator Angela Alsobrooks. She was the state's attorney at that time. I had an opportunity, even though I was in administration at that time, the second time that I was in the state's attorney's office, to try quite a few homicides as well. So I would say on the prosecution side, and I'm guessing, I've tried about 7 or 8 homicides, and several of those are ones that are unfortunately ones that the community remembers, like when a trooper was shot at Applebee's in Forestville. In addition to prosecuting cases, I was on the defense side. I served at a defense firm for about 6 years, and I defended persons who were accused of committing crimes, and I defended persons that were accused of committing homicides, and I believe I defended probably about 4 homicides during the course of time that I was a defense attorney. I'm just mentioning the number of homicides because there's no way that I can remember all of the cases that I tried or handled during the course of 10 years. But I would say that and now I'm back in the state's attorney's office as the state's attorney. I am ready. I was able to come in June of 2025 and through the transition keep the office going. And that's because of my experience. That's because of the leadership team that I brought in, that I've known over the years. I am ready to.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Mitchell.
So in my time, I don't know how many cases that I've won. We do not keep track of wins or losses. But whether you win or whether you lose, you learn lessons from that. One, you get some sense of what jurors need, what your community need, what kind of evidence that you need. And I take that information and I share that, especially when I'm training law enforcement. You know, these are the things we need to do to make our cases better. This is the kind of things and evidence that our community is demanding. And actually, I learned that as well through the grand jury process. You also learn the mistakes that you make and how you need to improve and how you build and how you also need to structure your office to function so that, again, you can be ready for trial. Because there are a lot of things that we need to do in prosecution, whether provide evidence to the defense and different things like that, and notices. So you learn how to prepare and train prosecutors that are coming through. So it's so many valuable lessons that you learn in both the victories and in both the losses. As I said, I've tried hundreds of cases, homicides. I have cases that are still pending at this time that I have to handle. So it's a great training ground. So all of that has prepared me. One, at the very base of what you need is you need a talented pool of prosecutors, and you need a process in which you teach them how to do the work. And you need staff that helps to support them with that. And I've learned that, and that has helped me with that time. And then you also need a relationship with law enforcement, because it is in those investigations that you have. And so you understand how to have the conversations and the things that you need. And you learn that from what you failed to ask them in preparation from that other trial that hopefully you won, but sometimes you lose. So it's just in all of that knowledge that I've gained in over 26 years that has prepared me for then taking the leadership role. And I'm second in command in what I do now. But in taking the leadership from being a state's attorney and making sure that those lessons and those things are throughout the office and throughout the training and in the people that you bring in.
Okay. Mr. Leventhal, your question for Ms. Jackson.
Thank you. Do you believe that the state attorney's office should be proactive in pursuing legal remedies or simply wait until an issue arises before acting? And can you give examples of how you would direct your office using either approach or another approach?
Well, the primary responsibility of the state's attorney's office is to pursue justice in the courtroom. And so mostly we are stepping in after a police officer has charged a case and then we are making a determination as to whether or not what we should present for formal indictment or how we should proceed after the case is charged. So that's really our primary responsibility. But I will say that I believe in being proactive and being out in the community and involved in crime prevention. And so that looks different depending on the situation. But for instance, I've started a youth council to work with young people in our community and to make sure that I'm listening to them so I know how to fight youth crime. We've also started a truancy program not too long ago where we're trying to target children that are chronically absent, because we know that chronically absent children oftentimes become juvenile delinquents, and juvenile delinquents oftentimes unfortunately become involved in adult criminal behavior. So in my mind, even though our primary responsibility is in the courtroom, in the district court and in the circuit court, prosecuting those cases or determining whether that they should not be prosecuted. Certainly, if the evidence is not there, then we're going to make a determination that we cannot go forward on that particular case. That's the primary role, but secondary to that is to make sure that I'm in the community building trust with the community so that we are better prosecutors in the courtroom.
Okay. Ms. Mitchell, same question.
Yes, thank you. You know, more than 95% of what we receive is based on what law enforcement charges. So you're navigating that. But one of the things that you learn is where there may be certain issues. And so in partner with those ways in which you can try to solve those issues or to better investigate those issues. So one of the areas that I've worked a lot with is in the area of organized retail theft. And so making sure that we're working with the businesses, especially the larger businesses, to determine what kinds of things we need from an investigative standpoint, what kinds of things that we can do in partner with them so that we can better identify those individuals that are not only committing thefts in Charles County, but throughout the region. We often find that they happen in numerous places. So that's one of the ways in which, when you talk about that idea of a legal remedy, I look to ways in which we can improve how we investigate cases and working with law enforcement, or look to ways in which we can prevent those things. I believe that when we're talking about youth, we have to look at ways to deal with prevention and targeting those areas where we have high-risk youth. So that we can address those issues before they come into the court system, before they actually get connected with law enforcement. And I think that's, again, for me, when you think about in the role that we play as a state's attorney's office and looking at ways that we can prevent crime from coming into places. And then also, more importantly, educating the community, to go around to the community and let them educate them about their rights. One of the things that I enjoy doing is when I'm a part of the grand jury that we do is when we have a homeowner's home improvement case, I like that we have the Home Improvement Commission person to spend a little time educating the grand jury about their rights, about the information they need, how they select someone, and where they need to go to report if they feel as if they've been the victim of some kind of scam with someone. And again, by educating them, that helps to help them know what their remedies are.
Okay. Ms. Fisher, same question.
Could you repeat the question?
I can. Sorry about that. Do you believe that the state attorney's office should be proactive in pursuing legal remedies, or simply wait until an issue arises before acting? And how would you direct your office in using either approach or something else?
As the next state's attorney of Prince George's County, I will never rest with just what's brought into the docket. You and I know, sitting at home out there, how much crime is going on in our county that is unreported. People in our community are scared to call 911. They're scared to interact with law enforcement because of the intense ICE presence that we see throughout our county. I think it's so important as the next state's attorney to always handle with responsibility and care every case that comes into the courtroom. But we need more during these times. We need someone that is going to work hand in glove with the community to make sure we not only build trust, but confidence in the office. Because if someone is a victim, it matters to me whether there's a case or not, because someone is getting hurt. Most recently, I've been in our immigrant communities with our law enforcement to build that trust and confidence so they actually report crime. And as the next state's attorney, I'm going to be focused on making sure that everyone feels that they can report crimes, we can build cases, we can work with law enforcement so that they're investigating, because we know what's going on in our communities more than just what's in the docket. That we know for sure. And when it comes to issues around domestic violence and particularly, and when it comes to issues around wage theft in our county, I am going to be having a transformational approach to our office in getting justice. Because I can't just settle with what's been going on. I've got to make sure our county is ready to face the challenges that lie ahead.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher. Mr. Daniels, you'll direct your question to Ms. Mitchell, and then Ms. Jackson will answer, and then Ms. Fisher.
Sure. Good evening to you all. I wanted to revisit about being proactive. Recent high-profile incidents have intensified concerns about the risk of femicide, particularly during marital separation or divorce proceedings. What responsibility should a state's attorney's office take in advocating for reforms to family and divorce law? And what specific policy changes would you prioritize or advocate for to prevent these unfortunate outcomes?
Ms. Mitchell.
Well, I think one of the things, I think some of the things that we see just stems from what we've had with domestic violence in general. I think we need to continue to work with the law enforcement first to educate, but also to provide the resources. I have found in my time that a lot of times our victims don't feel as if a combination of that they may want to address it, but also that they can. You're talking about resources. You're talking about trying to figure out where they need to go. You're talking about supporting their families. And so you have to make sure that you're setting up not only a state's attorney's office, but also partnering with those places so that individuals can feel as if they can make decisions that they want to make without having to worry about their safety or with respect to the safety of their children. And that's critical. I currently have a case now where, again, my victim was murdered. My victim was murdered by her boyfriend, and so again, it is continuing that messaging and continuing to educate folks and providing those resources so that they know that there is a choice. And then there are sometimes that resource has to be more. We need to actually remove and provide a way to remove them, even if there isn't a case. We have to look at when someone's going through and filing the civil protective order, is it a situation where we need to do more and connect them more to remove them from that situation so that they're not now becoming a case that we're dealing with in the community and being a part of that conversation and involvement.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Mitchell. Ms. Jackson?
Yes, so for me, it starts with accountability because victims of crimes, to include domestic violence, and especially probably with domestic violence, need to understand that we are able to hold the offender accountable. So that would give them some level of peace and comfort if they take that difficult step of actually reporting a crime or calling 911. We just had a case in the county just last week where my prosecutors prosecuted a boyfriend who killed, actually her name, 29-year-old Miss Criswell. She went to she reported that she had been strangled by her boyfriend, and the judge at the bond hearing released him because on home detention because she advocated for him. So which kind of talks to the cycle of domestic violence, speaks to that cycle. So he was released, and unfortunately, days later, they came into contact with each other, actually in his home. So she came to his home, and then he killed her. Now, he was found guilty of first-degree murder, and I think that sends a message to those who want to continue to harm people that they say that they love. So first and foremost for me is accountability. Secondly, I think it is important to make sure that we meet the victim where he or she is. And it's not just intimate partner violence that we see family violence quite a bit as well. And so we have to understand that oftentimes victims of domestic and family violence will report a crime and then they will not want to move forward with that crime. And actually, sometimes we need to move forward despite their wishes, which can be difficult for them, and we understand that. So each case we really have to take on its own merit, but the goal being first and foremost accountability, and close second is to support the victim in any way that we can, understanding that family violence and domestic violence is a difficult issue to deal with.
Thank you. Ms. Fisher?
Domestic violence is ravaging our families. And for me, I would say the lack of confidence that people are going to be held accountable and that you will be safe is the biggest thing that I see every day with domestic violence victims. I put legislation forth on the council, and I'm chairing the work group that's meeting monthly to really figure out the resources outside of just the case, the resources when it comes to housing options, folks in our nonprofit community working together, what's going to go on with your children. These cases are complicated, and each one needs a caring hand. And domestic violence survivors, they want to thrive. They don't want to feel and be re-victimized all over again in pursuing justice. And I think it's really important as state's attorney that you not only see the pain and the crime, but you see the lives and the destruction of the family. And I think it's about our community coming together, not just the state's attorney's office, but all of our community members, the CDC, everyone has to come together to really show the violence that's happening in our homes across our county. Domestic violence, it can be amongst family members, it can be amongst anyone in that household. And it is hard for people to come forward when it's their own family member. And so I think building that confidence in the system is key, and not just saying the case is done, you're good. Because what I have seen, in particularly for me, is that people come back with new cases. On a murder case, obviously it's done. But people have been in our courtrooms in this county on the same domestic violence dynamic on their third case. That is a problem. We have to get the families the help that they need after the case as well, so we're not continuing to repeat the cycle. That is going to be my number one priority, is making sure that the families and the victims have support, they have the services and the resources that they need, and that we hold people accountable and build back the confidence that even if it's your loved one, that they are going to be held to the law, because they're hurting you is hurting our entire community.
Thank you. Thank you, candidates. Thank you. This is the People's Candidate Forum with the candidate for Prince George's County State's Attorney. We'll be back after a short break with more questions from our panelists. Don't go away.
Through engagement and empowerment, we are fostering a new era of entrepreneurship right here in Prince George's County.
Why is ambition respected in men and criticized in women? We may think ambition in women is a good thing, but because of a lifetime of cultural stereotypes, we react negatively. That's unconscious bias. But can unconscious bias really limit women's success? Well, when asked to draw a leader, the vast majority of people, both men and women, draw a man. When we imagine positions of power, we erase women from the picture. Today, only 5% of CEOs are women. It's time to challenge cultural stereotypes and outmoded mindsets. The world is a better place when we support one another's ambitions, whatever they may be. Together, let's question the biases that hold people back. Voice our ambition proudly, without apology. Model ambition for our sons and daughters. Our ambition is to challenge double standards to help achieve women's equality. What's yours? I'm Mindy Kaling, and I embrace ambition.
Welcome back to the People's Candidates Forum. We have three candidates competing for the state's attorney for Prince George's County: Wanika Fisher, Tara Jackson, and Karen Piper Mitchell. Let's move on to our next round of panel questions. Ms. McCullum?
All right, so the county has not had an auditor in quite some time. Once audited, if there are discrepancies found, how will you handle that?
I think it's so important to have transparency when you hold public office. As someone that's been elected for the last 8 years in this county, anytime that I can be transparent, give records over, anything of that nature I've done, I think it's going to be important for the county. I know they're going through different processes to have an auditor. As that individual looks at the state's attorney's office, I will be in full compliance with anything to make sure we build back that trust. Because if we get to the heart of it, residents in this county want to know that their tax money, that their trust and confidence is with someone that is doing the right thing, that is putting their interests and their concerns first. And as the next state's attorney of Prince George's County, the people's concerns, the people's needs, and the people's safety will be my #1 priority.
Ms. Jackson, same question.
Yes. As the current state's attorney, I don't have to talk about what I will do. I can talk about what I am doing. I agree that trust is paramount, and because of that, we have really focused on data since I've been in the office. What we're trying to do is make sure that we have a good system for collecting data so that we can then give information to the public so that the public can hold us accountable. So I've talked quite a bit already about accountability, the office holding members of the public accountable if they commit a crime, but the public needs to be able to hold us accountable in the work that we do. I've not only, so we have a crime data dashboard that we put out not too long ago, and it's in its infancy stages, but we started out with 4 categories of crime so that we can show the public how it is that we're prosecuting crimes. And I do want to mention as well, when I was the chief administrative officer and the deputy chief administrative officer, I was involved in the police reform work group. And as a result of that work group, we in the county executive's office hired an inspector general. So I hired the first inspector general under then county executive also Brooks. I brought in the first inspector general whose responsibility it was to oversee the police department and other of our law enforcement agencies in the county. So I understand how to put in place new processes to hold us accountable. And certainly if there is ever an agency that is charged, that is put in place to hold the state's attorney's office accountable, I'm all for it and willing to comply in whatever way necessary, because transparency is key to trust.
Okay. Ms. Mitchell?
Thank you. So, you know, it's going to depend on what we're finding from the audit. If it's a matter of looking at that information and determining is it a matter of what we as the state's attorney's office are responsible for doing, then we will be absolutely cooperative with any information, anything that's necessary. But also making sure that we conduct ourselves in a way so that the public understands how the funds and how the budget and the things that we do, how we handle that, how much goes to support staff, what goes to equipment, and the variety of things, and making sure that the public understands how their dollars are utilized. If it's a matter of looking at that information and making some decision, is there some additional investigation that goes beyond just what's happening in the state's attorney's office, but what has happened with in other areas in our county government? Because I'm assuming that it's not only just a concern what's happening in one entity, but the other. Then at that stage, that's going to be a situation where, if necessary, then there's probably an outside investigator, someone that's not connected to the county, needs to look into that investigation. Because one thing you don't want the public to have any lack of faith in any kind of investigation and oversight. So in that instance, it would be appropriate for someone outside to be engaged in that, because the state's attorney's office does rely on getting its money from the county and from that pool, and how are we supported. But as I said, whatever cooperation that we need to play and whatever transparency we need to have with respect to the community, then we would do that.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Leventhal, your question for Ms. Jackson.
You all talk about accountability, you talk about public good, you talk about public safety. Here's an issue that may not be directly in your wheelhouse, but I think it is something that the state attorney's office needs to be aware of. There are multiple speed traffic violators cited by speed cameras along Maryland 210, the highway of death of Maryland, and who have not paid their fines. They have multiple speed violations, paid nothing. Now, these violators are both Maryland residents as well as drivers from DC and Virginia. And while this would seem to be the Maryland Department of Transportation or State Highway Administration issue, the problem is that many of these violators are not paying their fines, still speeding on 210. And for those of us in the corridor of 210, this is dangerous for us. This is a public safety issue. Would you wait until you finally hear from the state highway people that you should go after these people? Or are you willing to be a little bit more proactive to find out how you can get these people to pay their fines? Because if they pay them, maybe they will at least slow down. And as you know, the highest speed on 210 so far is 190, which is NASCAR speeds. And we need to stop, and multiple times, we need to be able to know what the state's attorney's office can do about this. Thank you.
Ms. Jackson.
Yes, so you are correct that most of the speeding tickets, the state's attorney's office does not handle those tickets. We can give jail time if you're 30 miles or above the speed limit. So if you've reached the reckless driving level, then the state's attorney's office can be involved because there's a potential of jail time. But what I want to say first is when I was the chief administrative officer, I was involved with trying to put more cameras up on 210. And we were successful. Don't have as many cameras as we need, but we definitely have made some progress. We've made some progress there. And since I've been the state's attorney, reckless driving has been really a significant issue that we've been wrestling with because we have far too many persons that are on our roads speeding well above the speed limit. And not just speeding, but doing tricks with the cars. You know, we have these car meetups and really putting everybody in danger to include themselves. Not too long ago, I had to sit with parents that had lost 3 sets of parents that had lost their children as a result of one incident involving excess speed and alcohol. And it's horrific. It's horrific to have to talk to the parents and listen to their grief. And it's something that could have been avoided, you know? Reckless driving is something that's been avoided. So we've been proactive and we've been everywhere we can be telling people you've got to slow down. This is no joke, especially our young people. Oftentimes they think that they're invincible and they're not. And so we have been wherever we can trying to push out this message that we are going to hold in our office people accountable for driving well over the speed limit where we're able to do that.
Thank you. Ms. Mitchell.
So one of the things that you can do with respect to sending a message is one, sometimes there's certain administrative penalties that are in effect when someone isn't paying the ticket. With respect to the speed cameras, some of that may be, they may suspend the registration of that vehicle. So those cases then will come in the court, and so you can prosecute those cases, especially when the basis of that suspension is because people are not paying these tickets, when these tickets are tied in. Because we can look and see why it is someone's registration or why there's been certain penalties attached. So when we receive those cases as a result of that, make sure we take those cases serious and make sure that we're informing the court this is the reason why this person is before you, because they have been driving dangerously on the highway, inform the court of that, as well as prosecute those matters. And 2, handle those cases when we have individuals that are in there for reckless, and especially those high areas. And again, I know very much about the concern that 210 poses because of it runs not only through Prince George's County, but it runs all the way into Charles County, and especially at a certain hour, people see that as their own personal roadway. and Raceway and how they drive. So those are ways that we can use that when the administrative penalties allow for the driver's personal driving license to be suspended, or whether it allows for there to be some affect their registration and their suspension. Those are when those cases come to us, making sure that we handle those cases properly to send a message that you need to take all of these administrative penalties serious, and they've put into place because you haven't taken care of your obligation and also slowed down on the highway. So those are the things that we can try to handle that.
Okay. Ms. Fisher.
Prince George's County, sadly, has been #1 in pedestrian fatality in the state. And I have been working on our pedestrian issues for the last 8 years, specifically with 210. When I was a member of the House of Delegates, I have voted and fought and made sure that cameras got on 210 Highway. I was actually very disappointed. We had another bill this year that wasn't successful, but we continue to advocate on 210. Currently, even my work right now on the council, it's going to be on final passage next week. These car takeovers are having a huge impact. There have been over 30 in Prince George's County since January. The bill is going to hold bystanders accountable that when you attend these rallies, you will get a citation and be held accountable. We cannot keep settling with the fact that people die on the roadway in Prince George's County. And it's going to take us with our state partners, our local partners, and the state's attorney's office on reckless driving and other incidents that lead to the state's attorney's office being involved in those cases to hold people accountable. And to follow up on your question on the tickets, it's going to take advocacy from us and with our partners in the region. And I know the bill wasn't successful, so that your tickets will follow you through the MVAs in DC and Virginia. That's going to be a regional effort for us to hold people accountable who are tearing up our communities. It's unconscionable, and when we send our children, our grandparents on the road, we want them to come home. That is one of the most shocking things. For those 3 young football players that lost their life, and someone gets a slap on the wrist for it, and they're never coming home, that's unexpected, more than anything else a family will face. And I will take these cases seriously. I will bring accountability, and I will continue to be an advocate and a leader when it comes to pedestrian to fatalities on our roadway. And for our pedestrian safety, I chaired the work group that went for our 2 young children in Riverdale that died in the crosswalk, so that we can have safety for our children when they're walking to school. These issues are impacting every single family, and I will make sure that I will do all that I can in my power to ensure that people are safe and come home when they get in their car in Prince George's County.
Thank you. Mr. Daniels, your question for Ms. Mitchell, followed by Ms. Fisher.
Thank you. How would your office balance prosecution and rehabilitation in response to rising juvenile crime? What specific changes would you implement or continue immediately as state's attorney?
I think that when you look at what's happening with our juveniles, you have to have a multi-step approach. I've been engaged in dealing with juvenile justice for most of my career. I actually was the juvenile prosecutor from 2000 to 2002. And I've worked with the Maryland State's Attorney's Legislative Committee and looking at either advocating or opposing certain legislation that I felt that affected our ability to do that. One, with respect to the cases that you have to make sure that we are requiring individuals be held accountable for the crimes that they commit, that we are continuing to advocate to the judges and providing the judges the necessary information so that they can make the appropriate decisions as to what is the appropriate disposition with respect to that individual. We also have to look at prevention. We have to look at ways in which we can partner with community, whether it's faith-based, whether it's nonprofit, to target our high-risk youth. You know, that's one of the things that I enjoyed about being a youth football coach, because we were working with middle school kids who normally in a single family home would be maybe home alone or in the neighborhood from that 6 to 8 time, and they were with us. And they were learning through sports and through also tutoring and being guided and mentoring. So we have to find a way to target and work with that. So I would work with whether existing programs and expand those programs. And then also we have to mentor and work with our youth once they're no longer a part of our juvenile system. When we look at how much time in the crimes and what we're able to do under the law and how long you can keep them in the system and keep them on probation, it's not a great deal of time. But yet we then release them and we assume that their issue is resolved. It's not. We also need to work and advocate to have mentoring and rehabilitation
Ms.
post that
Mitchell.
time.
Ms. Fisher, and then Ms. Jackson. Ms. Fisher.
Young people are like a vine. I always say they need the structure so that they can grow and flourish in our community. We have a generation that needs to be empowered. They have to be empowered to know that their actions they have to be accountable to them, and they have to be empowered to know that they're part of keeping our community safe too. When it comes to juveniles, I believe in expanding our diversion programs. I believe in making sure that we rehabilitate our young people. But that's an easy thing to say. They need resources and mentorship. Some of our young people are making a mistake. Some young people are taking lives, pulling up guns and knives, and threatening and killing even Prince Georgians. That's a different set of a young person that needs different accountability. So you have to take each young person's case, each juvenile differently. And we have to focus on truancy. When you look at truancy, that means someone's not going to school. When you look at the actual data, young people that are truant do not read on their reading level, can't read on their reading level. That is an indicator of young people that are going to end up in the criminal system. As state's attorney, we have to partner with our schools, with our community to make sure that young people don't even enter the juvenile system. They're reading on their grade level and they're flourishing and doing well. And we have to have our families and our parents involved. I read the comments online just like all of you out there. And families all come in different shapes and sizes. And as state's attorney, I have to look at that young person's family and figure out when they're exiting the system, what's going to be the best wraparound services, what's going to be the best connection with the community to help that young person flourish and grow and prosper. And so to me, it's really going to take that investment in diversion, that partnership when it comes to the reading level, and making sure our community's partnering together.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher. Ms. Jackson.
It is accountability. At the end of the day, it is what I've been saying since the beginning. And again, I'm doing it right now. I'm in the office doing this. When I first got into the office, I realized that this was an issue that I have to pay attention to, juvenile crime. And everywhere I go around the community, I hear people ask me, what are you going to do about our young people? And so we got to work. We were very involved in Annapolis with the Maryland States Attorneys Association. I was advocating against a bill. It's passed now, and so my job is to implement it in our office as best as possible. That bill or that legislation allows more, that law allows more of our young people to start in juvenile court as opposed to adult court. So more crimes are going to begin in juvenile court as opposed to adult court. But I say everywhere I go that accountability is loving. I discipline my son because I love him and I want him to be able to function in this community. So accountability is loving. It looks different depending on the situation. In very serious crimes, then sometimes we have to ask that the young person be held accountable in adult court, right? Sometimes we have to ask that the young person be on timeout and be moved outside of the community. Other times, diversion is okay. And I think it's important for the public to know that most of our cases, juvenile cases, start with the Department of Juvenile Services. So we have begun to work with the Department of Juvenile Services because even where they're informally disposing of cases, we want there to be accountability as a part of those diversion programs. So you can have accountability in diversion programs and you can have accountability in full prosecution. We've got the Youth Council, we've got Back on Track that's up and going, that's for young adults. And we have the truancy program that I've already referenced, where we're working with nonprofits that are in the community to provide wraparound services for the child and for the family. Something we're already doing. Don't have to talk about what I'm going to do.
Okay. Thank you, candidates. Stay tuned to the People's Candidate Forum, where an educated voter is the best informed voter.
Through engagement and empowerment, we are fostering a new era of entrepreneurship right here in Prince George's County.
Every 2 minutes, a woman in the U.S. is diagnosed with breast cancer. And in that moment, her life changes forever. The toll is great. The need is greater. The need to find comfort in the dark hours. The need to find hope in the cures. And that's why when others look away, we lean in. We're fighting alongside patients because we know one moment can change everything. But we need your help to make more moments of hope possible. Join our fight. Save lives. Because we are all stronger together.
Welcome back to the People's Candidate Forum. We will proceed with our final round of questions. Ms. McCollum?
All right, so legal education and experience aside, what other characteristics make you the best candidate for state's attorney, and what do you enjoy most about being a Prince George's resident?
I'm the best candidate to be your next state's attorney because of the extension of my experience. I've been a prosecutor here in this county. I've been a defense attorney. I've been a state delegate in which I've written the criminal laws that are used in our courtrooms every day. I wrote police reform and fought for it on the floor for 3 days straight to make sure we had transparency in our community. I've been elected to the county council where I chair public safety, and I see not only the financial but the policy issues impacting the entire complement of public safety in this county. My attributes, I think, are ones that center me with my faith, my family, and my community. I'm someone that's not settled with the status quo or a member of the status quo. I'm someone that's always fought for what's right. I've always fought for my residents, and that comes from my background. It comes from my parents building a life here, overcoming apartheid, setting up a business, and raising me and my siblings. I know that my community was one of the hardest hit criminal areas in our county, and I don't plan on moving. I plan on making it safer. We have an elected official getting carjacked 5 minutes from here. We need more. I know we do. And I have the energy and a bold new vision to protect our seniors from virtual predators, to help domestic violence victims, to thrive, and to make sure our young people have the structure they need to succeed. We need someone with energy and a vision for a new time. Prince George's County, we're facing real challenges up ahead, and they're not the challenges from the past. I'm a prosecutor for now. I'm the person that's gonna lead us to a future that's bright and that's safe for every single one of us, no matter your zip code, no matter your race, no matter how well connected you are. Every single resident matters to me, and every single victim matters to me. And I'm the right person to be the next state's attorney for Prince George's County.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher. Ms. Jackson?
I think in your question you said setting experience aside, but it's hard to set that aside when you're talking about the job of state's attorney, because experience, the difference between promises, what you're going to do, and results is really the experience. And so I can't talk about the office of the state's attorney and why I'm qualified without talking about the experience that I've had. While I respect both of my opponents, one has been a legislator and the other has been in Charles County for almost the entirety of her professional career. I've been leading in Prince George's County, and what leading means is leading people, managing people, administering. It's a very different job than being a legislator. And so my experience in the county executive's office, I was the only acting county executive that this county has ever seen. I was the acting county executive for almost 7 months. I was the CAO, the Chief Administrative Officer, for 5 years. And I'll say this, I am known for being a person who communicates, a person who is responsive, a person whose values she puts first and foremost, a person who is not only accountable to the community, but says everywhere I go that I'm accountable to God, a person who puts her family first, a person who understands Prince George's County, a person who is fair, a person who has integrity, and a person who does what she says she's going to do. That's why I am right to stay in the state's attorney's office, and I am the best candidate.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Ms. Mitchell?
I'm going to take the second part of your question first. What I love about Prince George's County, it is what has shaped me. To be in a place where I saw people that look like me being successful, being in leadership, and making decisions. It gave me the confidence as I grew in the school system to know that I could do the same, that I can contribute to my community, that I could serve in my community, and I could be a part of making it a great place. And I've spent most of my life doing that in public service, one, in working with children through my church, through other avenues, and that's been critical, and connecting with people. And I'm the only candidate that has been committed to public service. You don't have to question whether this is something that I want to do. This is what I've been doing for 26 years. And it's more than just holding the title. It is about working with new attorneys and teaching them how to do the job, because you need people to run the office. It's about working with law enforcement and teaching them how to do better cases. And I've worked with law enforcement in Charles County and Prince George's County. And I've handled cases in Prince George's County when there have been conflicts. I've tried cases in Prince George's County. I prepared indictments in Prince George's County. And I've supervised attorneys that have handled cases for more than 20 years. We had over about 5 cases that we were still handling at the beginning of last year, including a vehicular manslaughter. And crime is crime. And your leader needs to be able to know how to address that in a multitude of areas. And I've led people, and I've worked with people, and I've had to build with organizations, with law enforcement, to make sure that, again, the focus is how do we make our community safe? And so if you want to know what I'm going to do, you only have to know what I've been doing. And I just want to be your state's attorney, to bring a new voice and a new vision to what we do here, to look at what ways we can make the office better, and we can use technology to help stretch the dollars and deal with recruitment and retention. That's why I'm the next candidate and the best candidate for state's attorney.
Thank you. Mr. Leventhal, your question for Ms. Jackson?
I consider myself fairly informed about our local and state government. However, I must say that I'm not very knowledgeable about the state's attorney's office in Prince George's County and what role it plays in our community. And I suspect that I am not in the minority of Prince George's citizens about this. I think that the constituencies that you reach in the jobs that you have outlined, all of you, know you, but the rest of us do not. And I think that's the majority of the citizens in the county, unfortunately. And so what would you do to elevate and educate the public on what the Prince George's State Attorney's Office does, and more importantly, what that office can do to make our lives and our communities better?
Ms. Jackson?
It's what we're doing now, and I agree with you. Many people do not know exactly what the state's attorney's office does. So we've been moving around the community, educating. We've been talking about the basics of the office, how it is that cases come into our office, specifically as it relates to juvenile crime. So many people don't understand the Department of Juvenile Services' role in juvenile crime. And so it's important that they understand that those cases, most most of those cases, juvenile cases, go to the Department of Juvenile Services first, and the Department of Juvenile Services then screens those cases to determine whether or not they will move on to our office. But we're educating in every way possible. We're educating around financial fraud and scams. I've been to at least 50 meetings just around financial fraud and scams, partnering with our sworn law enforcement officers so that we can prevent crime in that area. I have community in the courthouse. I've had 2 sessions already where I brought members of the community into the courthouse to educate, to teach them Law 101. I brought the last month clergy into the courthouse because I know that they're in the communities and they have a broad reach, so that I could talk to them about our system, about the units in our office. We're having the youth council that I've talked about. It is for the purpose of educating and building relationship with members of our community. We send out a newsletter. We've sent out about, I think, 3, and one is, or excuse me, 2 or 3, and one is coming soon. And that is education, so that the people understand what is coming out of our office, the work that we're doing. And what I want to say too is I'm not the only one going into the community. I'm taking my prosecutors into the community because it's important that those prosecutors see the community, that they just don't see the people that come into the courthouse and
Thank you,
come
Ms.
into the
Jackson.
courtroom.
Ms. Mitchell?
So, you know, many people have a hard time, I agree, in understanding what is the state's attorney. One name that we're called. Most people are familiar with the term of district attorney. But it does start with letting folks know first what our responsibility is. And that as the chief prosecutor, our responsibility is to hold people accountable and prosecute the crimes that happen in our community. And it's about going out and letting people know that. I've had the pleasure of communicating with different types of organizations, speaking to people on the phone, and going through and first not only educating them about what we do, but also making sure that we find out from them, what are your concerns and what are ways in which we can either directly or either partner to make sure that we address those issues. Is it that we need to give you some tips on how better to keep yourself protected? Whether we need to work with law enforcement to continue to inform people to put a crowbar, a bar in their car to help prevent their car from being stolen. But it's constantly connecting with the community and letting them know tips and things that they can do to keep themselves safe, but also finding out from them what it is that they need from us. Are there things that we aren't doing? And also to let them know where resources exist, who they should call if they have certain issues. Again, I enjoy being able to educate when we have grand juries, when we have these unique cases and they're learning about things. And that's critical. But also sending that message to our youth. You know, we go through, do things in the schools. We educate the children in the schools about different things so that they don't find themselves in situations. We also make sure that we participate in Career Day and again, teach them about the role of the state's attorney and the state's attorney's office. So being a part of the education of our youth is critically important as well.
Ms. Fisher?
You have to show up for people. I have been showing up for this county for over a decade, not just in the last year because I was appointed or because I'm running. I've been in the community with these residents every single day for a decade. And what that shows me is that you go to where they are. You don't always bring them to you. You have to meet people in their homes, in their churches, in their laundromat, anywhere they are, to bring to them what is going on in the state's attorney's office. Most people in Prince George's right now, they're just trying to make it work. We have 30,000 people out of their federal employment. People are struggling. It's hard to have the bandwidth to know everything that's going on in your community. So for me, as your next state's attorney, I'm gonna meet you where you are, as I've done my entire career. And as I continue to do that, I commit to you now, and I always fulfill my promises. I will have an annual State of the State's Attorney so that you know everything that transpired that year. It's an ability for you to ask me questions, for me to come to the community. I will do my Wednesdays with Wanika, which I've always had in my entire career, where residents can come and chat with me and interact with me. You have to show up. That's what matters. That's what people need so that they can begin to understand something that can be complicated. If you're not an attorney, if you haven't gone for jury duty yet, if you haven't been part of a case, a criminal case, and they will understand why the state's attorney is so important in our county, because our public safety is so important. You cannot raise your families, work or worship in this county if you're not safe. And people have to understand that accountability and making sure that every person in this county knows that if you hurt a Prince Georgian, Wanika Fisher is going to be there for you.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher. Mr. Daniels,
Sure. Thank
would you please direct your question to Ms. Mitchell?
The word accountability has been mentioned a lot this evening. Can you discuss how your office handles or would handle cases involving police accountability and conduct? And do you support full and radical transparency, including the timely release of officer identities and events? And under what circumstances, if any, would you withhold that information from the public?
Ms. Mitchell?
Well, I can speak to my experience now with respect to that. I think that, one of the things that I'm involved in is that we review those cases when either a citizen has filed a complaint either directly to the police department or either we've received those things from the commissioners where someone is charging and wants to charge an officer for a crime. And so how we're going to handle is we're going to handle it the same way you handle every case, in that there has to be an investigation to determine, do we have a crime that's been committed? That's first and foremost. It doesn't matter who the person is, not your position, not your title. It is a matter of investigating, does the evidence support that you've committed a crime, and making sure there's a full-fledged investigation with respect to that, so that then we as a state's attorneys make a determination. If we find that there was a crime committed, with the evidence for that, charging that individual. So again, in that normal process, you will have the release of that information. There are times when we look at a case and we do not find that there's a crime. And so sometimes it needs to be retraining, or is it a situation where that officer just can't handle that task? I mean, talking to that law enforcement agency, what are you going to do with that particular individual in this case? Because we don't have enough evidence to support a crime, but we have some concerns about the way in which that officer handled this particular situation. And then as respect to providing that information to the public, I think that, we do need to allow the investigation to take place. We do need to make sure that we know what we're releasing to the public, and so that the public understands and that they have a full-fledged understanding of what the results were and what that decision was made. And so I think all of that's critical. And again, that's what we do now. And that we take the time to make sure that we are addressing each one of those complaints and those concerns, and making a determination whether or not we have a crime, and then making sure that the public is aware of that, especially when the cases are formally charged.
Thank you,
in the
Ms. Mitchell.
District Attorney's Office.
Ms. Fisher?
No person in this county is above the law. A resident, one of our officers in uniform. That's number one. No person is above the law. Justice and evidence has to be your guiding star when you're looking at these cases. As someone that championed police reform, I helped write the legislation. I fought for the legislation. I chaired the compliance committee for our local police reform here in the county. I help and I do a lot of work with our police accountability board, which actually is looking for members. So if you're out there and you want to serve on the Police Accountability Board, please, let us know. It's so important that we follow the process, because the thing that you don't want to have happen is that you do something that's not outlined, and now you've really hurt the integrity of the investigation and the case. So I am someone that will make sure that no one is above the law in this county. I will follow all of the work that we have put in place to gain that confidence and that trust with our law enforcement, and I will continue to do that as your next state's attorney.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher. Ms. Jackson?
So police misconduct can come in the form of criminal conduct or violations of administrative procedures. I talked earlier about how I served on the police reform work group in 2021. And that work group came up with about 50 recommendations, 46 of which the county executive at that time accepted and moved forward. And those recommendations centered around trying to hold police accountable for their actions. To include something as basic as giving a card. When you make a traffic stop, you have a card available to give a resident or a person that you've stopped on the highways. I'll say this before I continue. The vast majority of our police officers in this county, I believe, are doing the right thing. And they're out there working hard to make sure every day that they keep the residents of this county safe. But for those who are not, it's like any other profession, we're going to hold them accountable. And we do that through our special prosecution unit. So in the county, we have a unit, and their primary function, one of their primary functions, is to work with the internal affairs of the police department to investigate cases and determine whether or not to move forward with those cases. Unfortunately, we had to indict a police officer not too long ago for a crime that he committed. I'll also say that the Attorney General's office is a part of that process, because wherever there is a fatality and a police officer was involved, then the Attorney General's office will look at that case, and they coordinate, of course, with our office around the results of their investigation. So there's a layered process, and there, as it relates to informing the public, there are times when officers have been convicted where we then have to meet in the state's attorney's office and determine whether or not that information needs to be disclosed to the public.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Thank you, candidates. Stay tuned for our final closing remarks from our candidates. We'll be right back.
Through engagement and empowerment, we are fostering a new era of entrepreneurship right here in Prince George's County.
We hear the stories of people forced to abandon their home. The stories of people whose dreams have been swept away, or their lives left hanging by a thread. Or whose worlds have been blasted apart. Although the stories repeat themselves, each person's experience is unique as they are. And whether it's care or community that people need, we're here to help them live a new chapter, to embrace what makes them unique, be a lifeline to the most vulnerable.
A lot of my best memories of the holidays are centered around my grandmother. My grandmother's sweet potato pie, it just felt like a hug. I remember every time we'd come to her house, once you open that door, like it just hits you, and you're like, okay, the pies are ready, it's time. Food is a source of comfort. Food really helps bring people together.
Welcome back to the People's Candidate Forum. We end tonight with closing remarks. Each candidate will have 3 minutes for closing remarks. We will start with Ms. Fisher.
Thank you so much for having us all here tonight. Prince George's County, you know me. I've been in your homes, I've marched with you, I've been at vigils with you, I've been at protests with you. I've been in the courtroom with you. I've been in the council chambers with you. I've been in the State House with you. We need a prosecutor that not only has trial experience, but has been in our community and knows our community. Prince George's County, I have a vast amount of experience, but that experience taught me is that we deserve and need better. I have a bold vision for our county where every person, no matter your race, your zip code, or your income, feels safe and has a safe community. I know that you want to be able to live, work, and worship in our county without fear. And I'm here to tell you that I'm ready for the challenges ahead. We have digital predators every day scamming our residents out of thousands of dollars. We have wage theft rampant through our community. We have domestic violence victims that need support. We have young people that need to be held accountable and supported and empowered. I am the state's attorney that will ensure that these concerns are not only met with just passion, but actual action. I know what it's going to take to make this office and build it for our future ahead. We need a prosecutor for 2026. My name is Wanika Fisher. I'm the People's Prosecutor. I'm ready to serve you, and I humbly ask for your vote tonight. I ask you to judge me on my record, my values. I ask you to look at my experience throughout this community and my vision for a state's attorney's office that meets you where you are. I ask for your vote tonight, and I look forward to spending more time with you and more conversation in the future. Good evening.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher. Ms. Jackson?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for listening in. It's so important for the community to be involved and engaged in forums like these. And again, I want to thank the Community Development Corporation for hosting us, and certainly to CTV. I am Tara Jackson, and I am your state's attorney. I started off this program by saying that I applied to be your interim state's attorney. Neither of my opponents applied for the position. And I have been serving now for 9 months in the interim state's attorney's role. So I'm doing the work. But this isn't the first time I've done the work. I was the principal deputy state's attorney. So I led the office for about 6 years, a few years back. I have demonstrated leadership throughout this county on so many different levels. When I was the chief administrative officer, we in this county were going through COVID. And so at the direction of the county executive at that time, I led the government's response, the executive branch's response to COVID. Why do I say that? Because you need a leader, someone who has demonstrated that they're able to make decisions, that they're able to deal with crisis situations, that they're thoughtful in their response, that they're honest in their responses. You need that kind of leader in the state's attorney's office. We are in perilous times, and it is so important that people be able to trust the leader that is at the helm, the chief law enforcement officer in the county. It is important that people be able to trust the leader, and that's who I am. I am asking for your vote. I'm asking that you allow me to continue the work that I am doing in this office. I believe, as I said, in accountability first and foremost. And I'll say it again, accountability is loving. It looks different depending on the situation, but it's loving. I also believe in opportunities for Prince Georgians, so we don't see you in the criminal justice system. Wherever we can give low-level offenders another chance, we want to be able to do that. Again, I am Tara Jackson. I've been endorsed by Senator Alsobrooks, who was a prosecutor. I was endorsed by Glenn Ivey, Congressman Ivey, who was a prosecutor, Ivan Bates, Baltimore City prosecutor, as well as John McCarthy, Montgomery County prosecutor. Why do you think prosecutors are endorsing me? Former prosecutors are endorsing me. They know that I'm not a politician. I am somebody who knows how to do this job and knows how to do it well, and not just saying what I'm going to do, but I've done it. And I ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Ms. Mitchell?
Thank you. Thank you for everyone who is participating tonight and watching. June 23rd is an opportunity for the citizens of Prince George's County to make the decision at the poll who you want to be your state's attorney. And I'm telling you tonight, that vote should be for Karen Piper Mitchell. When you're making critical decisions about who you want to handle something, you look to experience. You look to the person's body of work to decide if you believe that they can do the job. And my body of work says prosecution, prosecution, prosecution. Crime is crime. And when the rubber meets the road and when there's a victim in there or a victim's family wanting to make sure that the person who murdered their loved one is held accountable, they're looking for somebody that understands and knows what they're doing, that can handle the case, but also took the time to make sure that they could be in a position to try that case in court. They're looking for someone that has worked with law enforcement and spends every day trying to figure out how do we make our cases better? How do we navigate the changing times? And for more than 2 decades, I've been committed to that because I understand the importance that we play. My career has been uninterrupted. I have 16 years more experience as a prosecutor than one of my opponents and 25 years more experience as a prosecutor than another. You know what I'm going to do because I've been doing it. Whether it's been in Charles County, whether it's been in Prince George's County, or whether it's been in Annapolis, advocating for the laws that we need or testifying against the laws that we don't need to keep our community safe. And that is critical. And I run for this position because I understand how valuable it is. And I understand how valuable my level of experience has been. Just the other day, I was working with one of my prosecutors, and we were navigating the fact that our victim in a child abuse case, his uncle went to court in another jurisdiction to try to get custody and lied about where he was and that he was with his mother. And my prosecutor, I quickly navigated. I said, you need to call this person. This will get this child an advocate so that they can not only make sure they protect him here, but they protect him in that other community so that mother doesn't have to turn that child over to an uncle who's actually assisting the abuser to get that child to change that child's testimony. Is navigating all of those different things that happen on a day-to-day basis so that your office and your prosecutors know that we can handle our core function, as well as navigate the fact that we have to be in the community and make sure that the community knows who we are, what we do, and that we work with those different partners to also focus on crime prevention. That has been my life's work, and I want to continue that work in the community that I have loved, the community that raised me, and the community where my family has been.
Thank you, candidates. That concludes the People's Candidate Forum. I want to thank our candidates, our panelists, and for taking part in tonight's forum. This forum is an example of participatory democracy. It only works when all of us are informed, involved, and vote. Good evening.
Come on, move. Of course, there aren't any spots. few minutes won't hurt anybody. Thanks, Grandma.
Paralyzed Veterans of America works tirelessly every day to create a more accessible America. Let's leave the accessible spaces to the people who actually need them. Whatever the reason, excuses don't excuse. Join PVA and be part of the solution. Honor the spot.
Hi, I'm Elijah. In the summer, I like playing basketball on the trampoline. When I'm hungry, it affects me. Like, if I'm trying to read, I'll go to sleep, or if I'm trying to do something around class, I'll get distracted. When I grow up, I want to be a robotic engineer. I want to build robots that can help around the house. Helping people makes me feel proud of myself.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. Perfectly imperfect. Beating in rhythm to the world you've created. But every time you drive after drinking, the music gets drowned out. Your life sounds pretty great. Don't let a buzz ruin it. Buzzed driving is drunk driving. Don't drive buzzed.
Why is just a starting line, for the true self blooms only when we find our purpose. What makes us tick? Below the surface. Why is the before work hustle an after school home, a section of my block, a corner to call my own? With my why, I stand strong, seen and supported all along. It's a million faces in a mirror, and everyone belongs. Join today. Find your why for a better us.
Every 2 minutes, a woman in the U.S. is diagnosed with breast cancer. And that's why when others look away, we lean in. We're fighting alongside patients because we know one moment can change everything. With your help, more moments of hope are possible. Join our fight. Save lives.
CTV News.
I sat down with the interim superintendent to talk about what students and parents can expect this school year.
As students prepare to head back to school, County Police are looking to fill an important safety position.
We have a lot of people fired up about supporting our children.
All 9 sororities and fraternities that make up the Divine Nine are coming together to donate for Prince George's County students.
PGCPS is rolling out their new bus tracker app that shows how students are getting to and from school.
People really want to be here. They know the great things that we're doing here.
These are kids that are literally going to change our world.
Yeah, we're excited to have 132,000 students coming back into our doors.
CTV News, bringing you news that you need to know.
1 in 365 African Americans battle sickle cell disease. I was one of them. Life back then was painful. I was in and out of the hospital and had frequent pain crises. A blood stem cell transplant is the only cure for sickle cell disease. I was fortunate to find a perfect match in my younger sister, but many patients do not have a compatible donor in their families, and Black patients have only a 23% chance of finding an unrelated donor. More Black donors are urgently needed to help save lives. It only takes a simple cheek swab to join the Be the Match registry. Learn more about becoming a donor and access free patient resources by visiting endsicklecell.org today. You or someone you know could be the cure for a patient battling sickle cell, like me.
A lot of things feel out of control these days, so it's time you pick your battles. Skip playing referee in the morning. Skip laundry this week. Skip game limits today. Skip cooking tonight. New realities require new routines, and it's okay to skip some of the old.